I would like to say that there is this really exciting and interesting story as to why we're starting 50 minutes late, and there isn't at all. Well, there kind of is. It's just not one I can tell. Uh, Jeez, this. Yeah, nope. There's no, none of this. My computer wasn't working. None of that. Absolutely none of it. It just everything in the world was like, nope, you're not going to do this today, and I need to do it today, and so that's why I'm here. Like I said, just mostly it's all on me. Like this is not a, you know, I'm just finally here. God. You ever had, it's one of those days. So I will say that it's not an episode I wanted to do, but I needed to have done probably a month or so ago, maybe even more. I think you can tell by the title where we're heading to this, which is seasons come to an end. And I think the season for this, as definitely as a weekly series, which again, we've been on hiatus because of this. But particularly as a weekly Bible study kind of a thing, that season's come to an end. It just has. Truth be told, it really should have come to an end, like I said, well over a month ago. And I was fighting it for the same reasons that Moses struck the rock when God commanded him to speak to it. It's just you do what you get into a habit of doing things, and you start doing, and you keep doing it, and then you trust that more than where the Spirit is leading you, and the Spirit has been leading me to do something different for a while now. And I can't get too specific on it, but something happened yesterday, and it really cemented for me that I need to be somewhere else. In meaning, it's time for my journey to continue. Y'all may have noticed a lot of the topics have been changing over in Questions Everything. That was always very deliberate, but Questions Everything is going a slightly different direction as well. We're going to start doing other things, and that change is going to get even bigger in the coming months. And this is not by chance. This is very deliberate, but it's because I'm moving into a new direction. So to Titan's question, yes, that is the plan for the time being, is that like once a month do a hangout. However, it's entirely possible that a lot of the material that we've been doing here is going to migrate over to Questions Everything as hangouts anyway. So that's where we're trying to figure it out. Right now, all I know is it needs to end as a weekly thing. That's all. Whether or not we still do hangouts, again, that's sort of my plan, but I haven't really, there yet. But like I said, a lot of the material that we've been covering will probably end up on Questions Everything anyway. So, and to sort of let you know where I'm going with this, I know you've all probably heard this story. Pastors love this story, right? But I had sort of a revelation a few weeks ago about it, and I think I'll show you sort of the direction I'm going. There was a woman who was baking a cake, and she filled a pan up with water, and she put it in her oven right next to her cake. And she stopped, and she realized she didn't know why she was doing it. She just always seen her mom do it. So she calls her mom. She's like, "Hey, Mom, why do we put a pan of water in with the cake?" And she goes, "I don't know. It's what my mother did." So she calls her grandmother. Grandmother's like, "I don't know. It's what my mother did." So she calls her great grandmother. Great grandmother says, "I don't know why y'all are doing it, but my oven's uneven." Cue laughter, right? Everyone laughs. Oh, ha ha ha. This is how traditions start. Maybe there was a reason for them, but they outgrow their use, and on it goes, right? Here's the problem. It's the entire story itself is a psyop, because there is a reason to put a pan of water in the oven. Keeps the cake more moist, allows the outside to be more firm. It's something that real professional bakers do all the time, particularly in certain breads. Like, you've got to do this or your bread turns out just trash. What my real takeaway has been is we stopped at the great grandmother as a culture. Christian culture, American culture, Western culture, all of it. We stopped at the great grandmother. We didn't, we said, oh, well, there must have been, she did it because of this. Did she? That's the claim. But is she really staying at the truth here? Did this maybe start because of an accident, but actually has real beneficial purpose? The point is, we've used this story to explain why we just need to get rid of some traditional ideas and traditional views on things, and everything will be fine. Well, no, it's not fine, because your cake stops being as moist. Your bread stops being as crispy on the outside and moist and fluffy on the inside and rising as high as it should. Only when we're talking about people and society and churches, it gets to what we're seeing right now. When I began all of this many years ago, not before I even, before this channel, before any of this, was eschatology, right? And I had interest in creationism, and I cared about it, but I was like, no, this eschatology is the one place where I have some unique views and perspectives and reasons to be the one to say this. But then it ended up in the paranormal world as well, and it's like, okay, well, I'm here to make this point, and God has kept moving me further down a line. I had no idea where I was going ever. Met the Moms of Miracles, and they got me into, and they're like, well, we need to be doing this more often, because this is where the Spirit of God's really going to move, not necessarily in the churches, but in stuff like this. Okay, I don't disagree at all. In fact, I've come to believe that more often, or more truly. And then COVID hit. Like, literally, I started all this before COVID, and now here we are. And so the season for this to be a thing happened, and it was important. But the thing that I've also learned is we need each other physically more and more and more. I think in many ways, and this has been going on for decades, right? Because you have televangelists, people would just stay home and watch and they're like, well, this is it, right? I'm just watching him talk, so we're fine. Again, I still have a lot of thinking to do to put into words fully what I'm seeing and what happened yesterday. And it was nothing paranormal or anything like that. It was just a lot of things came into focus as to what my new direction is. And I can't even put into words exactly how to do it. But I've become very, very aware of our needs of humans to be together physically. Not that this is bad, right? This is the conveyance of ideas and thoughts. It's important. But we need people tangibly. We need to be in the same room. We need to be able to hold people's hands, hold them accountable. We need to have that, that spirit together with us. Again, this is wonderful, but it's not the end of things. And where I'm going now is going to be taking this idea of rediscovering the traditions and the old ways, and then being able to explain why we need them. Because I've become convinced that there have been attempts in the past to bring these things back after the modern world sort of discards all that and has discarded all that in the past. People try to bring them back, but the people making the arguments were making the wrong arguments, because in many cases they were coming from the wrong philosophy. They weren't looking at it the right way. Even though at the core of what they were saying was wrong, was correct, there was all this other fluff that was wrong, and that's why people rejected it. Now is the time to reclaim these thoughts and ideas and get all the junk out of the way, get a lot of the preconceptions out of the way, and re-argue for this and change people's lives, because there is no better time. I've been saying, and the one thing I've never changed my position on is I believe we're coming to the greatest harvest of souls this world has ever seen, period, end of story, because the end is coming, whether people want to admit it or not. That means we need to be in our top form. You notice I've been losing a lot of weight. I am continuing that even more, but there's more aspects to health than just weight loss, right? And that's what I'm trying to work on, is to become even more healthy spiritually, physically, and mentally. And I have that order very specific for a reason. And we're going to be addressing that again on Questions Everything. But I'm becoming more and more convinced that so much of what we see as mental illness in the world today is actually the effect of essentially us being poisoned. Again, spiritually, yes. And in our worldview, yes. But I mean, physically poisoned. Our foods, even our clothes, so much has led to. I mean, we're like 3 times more radioactive than our ancestors were 100 years ago because of the atomic testing. This is not my allegation. This is a known fact. We have drugs in the water. Our bodies are not working the way they should be. This is why we're seeing the obesity epidemic that we're seeing. And it's also one of the reasons why we're seeing this mental health breakdown. We're treating physical ailments and spiritual ailments as mental ailments. They aren't. And it's by design. The church doesn't believe the Bible anymore. It hasn't for a while, which is why things are going on the way they are. I've been championing this idea for a long, long time. And it's time to really push that idea. And so, sadly, I don't want to bring this to an end because I love meeting with y'all every week. But God's been showing me it's time to move on for a while, and my flesh didn't want to do it. My flesh like, no, we like this. This is comfortable. But it's time to move, right? Sometimes God, this idea popped in my head a while ago, and I haven't really been able to get over it, which is sometimes God brings us to where we need to be to take us away from it so he can bring us back to it. We see it with Israel all the time, right? God brings Abraham into the Levant, but he takes his descendants out of the Levant to be in Egypt for 400 years and then takes them back. What was this? Well, because this needed to happen. This journey, we put you where you're supposed to be. The Israelites are supposed to be there, but he takes them out of it so that they can grow. They can become bigger and better and then learn. And then the 40 years in the wilderness, it's like, yes, because of their failure. But as we talked about on the Rush Limbaugh prophecy on the other channel, hey, but those people weren't ready to enter it again. So they had to wait those 40 years to enter into the Levant. But it's like, well, why would God take them out in the first place? Because they needed to leave. Yes, this is where they're supposed to be, but he needed to take them out in order to make them what they needed to be to come back in and take those next steps. Unfortunately, this was a season, and this may be a season I come back to, right? But for now, it's time to go on that next part of the journey. Time to follow where the Spirit is leading, because if I don't, then I'm doing y'all no good at all. Right? Moses was ordered to speak to the rock, but he kept whacking it with a stick. Well, I can keep whacking this rock with a stick and not getting water, or I can speak to it. And I need to do that. Like I said, for right now, it looks like I will be doing at least one hangout every once in a while. But again, a lot of this may move to Questions Everything. It really may. I'm not settled on that yet, but what I am 100% settled on is it's time for this to change. It needs to change, and I need to move forward because God's got a new step for me, and I appreciated this step. What we did here was never intended to grow at all. Like you've noticed, I went out of my way to keep it small because I like talking to y'all directly, knowing y'all personally. Um, and this has grown me a great deal, which is why I didn't want to leave it. I don't want to stop doing it. But God's like, okay, great. Now it's time. It's time to go to Egypt, right? It's time to speak to the rock. It's time for that next step. And I can either fight it or I can move. And I can do what I'm being asked to do. So sadly, I am saying that for now, at least, the Sundays, it's got to come to an end. Like I said, y'all will notice a lot of other changes in a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. It's because I think there is a next step to take. I think there's a lot that the church needs to relearn, particularly when it comes to not just the paranormal and the cryptozoological, though clearly it does, not just in eschatology, though clearly it does, but in a lot of other ways. People, we've been lied to in ways we don't even fully comprehend, even how we think. Like I said, that story about the pan and the oven. It was propaganda so that we would believe that we needed to get rid of some of these old ideas when we should have clung to them. We wouldn't be where we were if we had clung to those ideas and those concepts. Again, I'd like to say that starting late today was something other than me, but it wasn't. And I think I was fighting the flesh the entire time. I wasn't even sitting there like wrestling with, should I go live? Should I not go live? Nothing even that dramatic. Everything that I was trying to do to remind myself that we had changed times, that, particularly for today, because I wanted to give it more time, failed. All of it. It's and it's just I didn't want to do this. I need y'all to understand that this is not what I wanted. This is definitely what God is telling me I need to do, and I needed it. So I'm doing it happily. Like, I'm not doing it, grudgingly or anything like that. But it is the next step I have to take. And it's it's hard because I like this. I really do. I like y'all. But it's, I got to follow God's leading here. And the things I'm wrestling with right now on what these next steps are, when you see them, you'll understand what I'm wrestling with. And it's the ideas, it's how to explain it. Guys, we're coming into a world. I mean, I just recorded a little 10-minute questions everything. It's the first sort of solo thing I did for that channel about this, this alien crash that happened in Las Vegas. Everyone's talking about the stuff that's on the dash cams and the body cams and all that, right? But they've got, the dude came out and did a testimony. Now I can only find it on TikTok, which is why I couldn't put it up on the screen when I did it. But he talks about, he's like, several parts of the story. This was clearly a paranormal event. This was not a physical thing, right? Yeah, the 10-foot being in the backyard. This was not a physical event. It wasn't that there wasn't anything physical that's happening. This was clearly a paranormal event. I'm just going to say it this way. A star falls from the sky, and the people then have an encounter with a physical creature that is clearly paranormal. And the highlight here is screams when they started praying. That doesn't sound like Mork from Ork to me, right? But how is this event being played out in the media? Alien, UFO. Because this is the big lie. That's the big lie for the 21st century. It will be. This is how they're going to hide all of it. We're seeing it with Ancient Aliens. Most of their shows are all new age stuff now. And why is it that the UFO community and all of these things lead to just look at the people who are doing, they'll admit, yeah, it goes to the new age real fast. Why does learning about aliens kick you over to the new age? Because that's the trap. That's what it's intended to be, right? We need to have people saying new things, and the church needs to understand what's coming. and it's not prepared at all. And part of it is physical, is getting healthy, is learning where the boundaries are. Why did we have these, um, why do we have certain rules to begin with? It was very common for the church in the West to talk about things like the elves and fae and spirits all the time. It was the modern church that abandoned all those ideas. There you go. So, we need to pull these things together and realize, hey, the church bought into a lie a long time ago, and it's affected our physical health, our mental health, and our spiritual health in ways we don't even realize. And we've got to pull this out, or we are going to miss a lot. So that's what we're doing. And things are going to take a new form. And again, the plan is still to do hangouts here every once in a while, but I'm working on that. Decisions will be made. Like I said, a lot of the content that we've talked about here is going to move to Questions Everything. In fact, Donnie and I are working on an episode on the Mark of the Beast, actually for this week, for the live episode. There's some stuff we got to talk about on that, right? So it is what it is. I can gild the lily more, or I can pull the Band-Aid off, sadly. And so here's where we are. I do love y'all. Y'all are great. But the season of this show being a weekly thing has got to come to an end. Should have happened over a month ago, but I was fighting it. And these last couple of weeks were really me wrestling. Like, is this the right decision to make? Or am I following something wrong? Like, I've been really wrestling with this the last few weeks, and here we are. Like I said, yesterday was just so much confirmation of everything that was in my head and what I've been thinking. It's like, okay, now I see what I need to do and how I need to do it. So it's growing, it's evolving. Again, I may come back to doing this as a weekly thing at some point in the future. I don't know. Like I said, sometimes God brings you to a place to take you out just to bring you back, because you need to be ready for it again. Like he did with Israel. And sometimes, he takes you to Egypt, and so you can grow and be what you need to be, and then he takes you out. I don't know where this is. Was this a Levant? Was this is this an Egypt? What is it? I don't know. I'm just on the journey, and we'll see what happens, right? Like I said, I'm not going anywhere, but this channel is just not going to be what it was. And you'll see me, like I said, Questions Everything. And again, that's going separately, and we're doing something different there as well. You'll see me every Tuesday for the time being on Mysterious Library. I don't know how that, everything's right now. That's still on the board to be what it is, but we'll let you know if anything changes there. But I'm not going anywhere, but I do need to change how I'm doing things to make certain I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and championing what I need to champion, because the time has grown short on all of these things. It just has. And I love y'all. And this has been really, really hard sort of a decision to come to, but I needed to come to it. And like I said, I started late, not by choice. I was just, everything I'd set up so I could remember to be here and do this just completely failed. And ended up being late. And it's because deep down, my flesh doesn't want to do this, but I know I have to. So love every one of y'all. And as always, we'll catch y'all on the flip side.